Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the Health Made Simple show. We'll just get started in a couple of minutes here. We're just a few minutes early. So we'll set things up and then we will get started. Good to see you all. Hey, Lisa and Eric. Good to see you guys. Who else do we have on? If you're just jumping on, say hi in the chat and let me know where you're calling in from. It's bright and early here in Perth, Australia. I know it's a bit later on Tuesday for lots of you guys. So say hi, let me know where you're from while we just set this up here so that we can go live on Facebook. And we also wait for our guests to come on. So I say it's a cool topic every week, but I think especially with kids going back to school now, it's a great time to talk a little bit about kids' nutrition and whether there's some differences there. So excited for this one. Cool. Okay, let's start sharing it on Facebook here. Keep letting me know, guys, where you are. Say hi, Dr. Bart. Hello.
Hello, Miss Karen from Australia. Good morning to you.
Bright and early on Wednesday morning here.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I'm really excited about tonight's topic. I'm really excited about our guests too. I'm always hoping that they can link on okay.
I know. Me too.
Yes.
Yeah. Nah, she's gonna be.
I'm sure she'll be on next. So for any that have already linked on, if you guys want to let us know where you're from, that would be awesome. And again, questions. I think we're going to probably have a lot of questions. I already saw a lot coming my way, so we'll answer your questions, even if they're tough ones. And there she.
I'll do that. Hi, guys.
Hello. Great to meet you.
Australia.
I am.
The other link, and I was a guest. So it's like, okay, they can't hear me. I'm a guest. I'll log off and I'll get back on the panelist code. I could hear you guys.
Good job. Very cool. All
Welcome,
right.
dear. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
Mm-hmm. Well, Amber, I was just telling Karen that one, I'm super excited to have you on, and I'm super excited about this topic. And I think that I'll back up for a moment. The reason this happened, so all of a sudden, it's like 2 weeks ago, I started getting bombarded with all these questions about their kids going back to school and how do we prepare them? Are they healthy? And, I don't have any kids. Yeah. So, and I was like, what happened? Like, what happened overnight that everyone's thinking? And of course, it's going back to school time. And then immediately I was thinking, I got to get Amber on here. I got to get Amber on here. I got to have her talk about some of the things that, we've talked about, you and I have talked about for years. And then, so we'll go into a bunch of things tonight. So, Karen, are we live? Are we live
Yes.
on Facebook right now? So we're good to go?
We are live on Facebook. So welcome everyone to another episode of the Health Made Simple show. I want to start by introing our host here, Dr. Bart, who has been a healthcare provider for over 20 years, practicing a range of modalities, including chiropractic, acupuncture, kinesiology, nutrition and supplementation, and functional testing, all out of his clinic at Balance Health Studio on Seagrove Beach in Florida. He's also the founder of the Health Edge program, which is a virtual health program for entrepreneurs and executives who want to take their health to the next level. So he's helped thousands of people around the world, including celebrities and athletes, and always drops so much value for us. I learn something every week. So we are also super excited, though, this week to be joined by Amber, who is our health and nutrition super mom this week, talking all about kids and nutrition. So we're really excited. So Amber has been in the health and fitness industry for 20 years. She has an undergrad in biology and a master's of environmental health and safety from the University of Minnesota. So she is super passionate about children's nutrition after having her son at 40, which she describes as a super easy, awesome, healthy pregnancy. So love to hear that. That's amazing. And so we are super excited to hear your story and your journey and your tips on keeping your son healthy and how you navigate that. So thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome, you guys. Well, thanks for having me. I think, Dr. Bart, I think it's like my 9th or 10th year of seeing you. So it is fun, you guys. Dr. Bart and I have a great relationship. He's been with me right through the whole pregnancy, and I'm excited to be on tonight. So thanks, you guys.
Yeah. So Amber, I was trying to think when we first met and how we first met. I don't know if it was on our yoga mats first or as, you know, in the adjusting room first. I'm not sure. So either way, it's been a great journey. And I remember back when you were like, yeah, I think I want to get pregnant. And I'm like, Amber, you're 39. And, I'm like, yeah, you'll have a baby when you're 40. And,
I know. Bart, I used to get teased, you guys. My friends would be like, Amber, my kids are calling me mama and your kids are going to be calling you nana. I'm like, come on now. But yeah, Bart, we just, you know, Jason and I, we've been married 21 years and we both have the same undergraduate degrees. We went to our corporate America. We loved our jobs. Now, I would say we had $90,000 in student loan debt. So we loved our jobs, I think, because we got positions in our career fields. And we were there for like 3 or 4 years. You're working like 70 to 80 hours a week. And then we were like, okay, so if there was ever a way for us to work this hard for ourselves, would it be possible for us to ever, like, you know, create some sort of entrepreneurial opportunity or independent lifestyle? So yeah, that's why we didn't get pregnant until we were 30. I didn't think about it. So a lot of people used to ask me, Dr. Bart, they're like, could you not get pregnant? And I was like, no, I was just like busy building a business. And finally what happened was I turned 39 and Jason kept saying, well, we have time. And finally I said to him, like, okay, here's the deal. Your parts don't expire. Mine have a lifetime. Mine expire.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, I love that story. And it's one of the reasons I think of you as like the super mom. In all fairness, I have incredible respect and like a wow factor for all the moms out there for how hard it is to, you know, to raise a child. I think about my mom trying to raise me, like, God bless her, like the fact, you know, and she's still alive in some amazing way. And then knowing that you are an entrepreneur and that you coach people all around the world and you take that role of leadership and, you know, you're taking care of your son at home and, you know, and I know Jason is, you know, I consider him a great friend and I watch all of this. So that's how I come up with the term of super mom, just getting it all done. So I tell you what, one of the things I want to dive in tonight, and we're going to go deep first. There's like everything I want to cover tonight. I want to talk to you about how your son Augie eats, how you got him to that spot. It's a big topic. We know health, you know, nutrition's a big part of you know, being healthy. I want to talk about, like, do you use supplements at home? How did you get to that spot? How important is like tribe and just like family dynamics, all that. But before we go to any of that, so no doubt right now, everyone's going back to school and the big topic is, are our kids safe? So with that one, we'll dive into that a little bit. But I want you to talk about the realness. And I know you'll get this because you're out there coaching men and women to be entrepreneurs. And even though you're teaching them business strategies, I know you're mostly, Amber, teaching them mindset strategies. So right here, right now, you got a 5-year-old son going back to school. What are you thinking about right now? Because when I was 5 years old, I got to go to school. And the first thing I did, I still remember my best friend in 5th grade. His name was Paul Rosen. I don't know if he's on here or not, or I don't know what Paul's doing anymore, but I remember we would hug and wrap our arms around each other and touch each other. And we would see each other's expressions. And I can't imagine not doing that, or I don't even know what it would do to our psyche. Is that something that you're thinking about? And if so, can you speak a little bit to it? Because you got a 5-year-old kid going to school.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of great conversations with people around this, and he loved it. He loves to wrestle, Bart. He's like, he and Jason love to wrestle, and he loves to wrestle with his friends. And he's in kindergarten this year. So and how do you teach children, you guys? And we don't want, it's this fine line of, we don't want to teach them like, don't touch, don't shake hands, don't hug. So one of the things I always say, Bart, is I want to hear what you want to do, not what you don't want to do. So even if Augie's like, Mom, I don't want that, I go, great, I don't want to hear what you don't want, Aug. I want to hear what you do want, okay? So I'm aware that I don't want to be talking about what I don't want to happen, because if I keep talking about what I don't want to happen, it's going to happen. So I have to be aware to speak about what it is like for what I would like to see happen. On the other hand, he's in a classroom with 29 other kids, so I don't have full and complete control. So if we go deep just for a second, I was talking to you earlier, Bart, about like one of my friends and I were talking about the Great Depression, and think of like our grandparents or our great grandparents that might have grown up in the Great Depression. And that just creates a certain energetic environment, right? So like you're really consciously aware of like, we almost experienced a little bit of it this spring with like rationing and toilet paper, for example. It's just like, imagine not having enough, okay, in the Great Depression. And then it's almost imprinted in our grandparents or our great grandparents' DNA, just this state of being, of lack or not having enough, or like, did you ever have grandparents that like saved everything? Does that make sense? Like my mom's a little bit, hi Mom, but if she's on here, right? She has a little bit of she's a little bit of a hoarder. So you just wonder if that passes down a little bit generation to generation. So I was talking to my friend recently about this, and he was like, Amber, you've got to be so aware of what is happening in your household during this season, because Augie will pick up energetically anything that comes from you. So anything energetically that comes from you about what you say about going to school, or about a mask, or about hand washing, or about wrestling with your friends, the way in which you say it and the way in which you approach it. I mean, he's 5, so he's gonna remember this 4, 5, 6, 7, however long the season lasts, you guys. Like, just be cautious and be aware that this doesn't make an imprint on his DNA kind of, or how he functions for the rest of his life. I was like, well, that puts things into perspective, Bart.
Yeah, and that's huge. So I get asked the question all the time, like, am I concerned about COVID? Does it scare me about what it's going to do to the kids and whatnot? And my honest answer, when I'm just speaking off the cuff, is that's not what scares me. It scares me what we could be doing to the psyche and to the psychological mindset of these children if they're afraid of each other. So I love hearing that you're having that conversation. I encourage all the moms, and I'm calling super mom tonight, but the super dads too. For all of us to start to think what lasting impression we have in our children. And I think that's just one thing that we can't avoid. And of course, there's going to be strategies for immune system and, and stuff like that. But the mindset is so delicate at that age that I think it's more important than we're probably talking about at this point. All right, so let's keep rolling here. So like specifically, so you ask Augie, what do you want? But does it always work that way? Like, is that good? That wouldn't be that kid.
So if it doesn't work the first time, you know what? It lands on me to formulate a second question in a different way, right? So I just take a little bit of responsibility. So like, if he's like, Mom, let's just go food for, he just did it, Dr. Bart, okay? So we're having dinner, okay? He just did it. What does he leave on his plate? Red peppers, green peppers, and walnuts. So what's he say to me? Mom, can I just eat until my belly's full? I go, well, sure, but does that involve not having the red peppers, green peppers, and the walnuts? He goes, yeah, but my belly's full. I go, no worries, just put it aside for later, and we'll have it a little bit later. Like, right? But he's smart enough to say, can I just eat till my belly's full? Because of course, what do I teach him? Eat until your belly's full, or don't overeat. So he's getting away with not overeating, but he's avoiding red peppers, green peppers, and walnuts.
Yeah. All right. Since we're on the topic of nutrition.
Yeah.
I was the kid. So I had an older brother, Pat, when we were young, and Pat would eat anything. He was a good eater, eat his vegetables, eat everything. Me, on the other hand, wouldn't eat anything. I was the troublemaker. I was the one that wouldn't I was a pain in the ass every night for my mom. No meal could go through without a wrestling match. And I have a lot of my moms that come in and they say, listen, I have this child. They won't eat this. They won't do that. Could you shed some light? I'll maybe my wife will laugh at me if I actually share what my mom did. She says it's almost child abuse, but it wasn't. Can you share with me what you would share with one of your moms, or when you, because I know there's no playbook when it comes to being a super mom, right? You got to like figure this stuff out. So what would you do in those moments, or what would you share with some of the moms listening tonight? How do we get over that obstacle? Because the truth is, nutrition is massively important, especially now.
So true. It is so important. Now, let me start with the benefit is he was raised this way. Okay. So, and that doesn't mean that there are things that he won't eat, right? But he was raised this way. So I'm grateful that I had enough experience and knowledge in the industry that he was just raised eating fruit. I mean, it's not like, I mean, he certainly would like his cupcakes and, you know, ice cream every now and then too. So, I mean, we see it here a little bit. We have a friend that lives with us a lot just during the whole like season that we're in. And she's 9 and she's a really great eater too, but I'll see her be like, well, I don't like peppers and I don't like, you know, broccoli. What were we eating the other night and she didn't like it? So it's going to happen, right? But nutrition is so important. So like with Augie's, in every day, Bart, he'll come home. He's eaten like all the good stuff, right? And today he came home with strawberries, blackberries, red peppers, and green peppers. All the fruits and the vegetables. He came home with that in his lunchbox. I'm like, awesome, no worries. Let's have it as an afternoon snack. Okay, so I'll just find a way. I'm like, no worries, we'll get it in for our afternoon snack. It's no big deal. So he knows he's not, first of all, it probably is a little bit me, like, we're gonna have it, okay? And I don't make a big deal of it. I don't wanna be like, I don't wanna be the torture mom. I don't wanna make him sit at the table and require him to eat it, but he just knows that it fuels his body. We talk about sleep and we talk about nutrition fueling the body. So if you want good energy so that you can be joyful and you can play with your friends and can have, you know, awesome experiences each day, that we need great sleep and we need great nutrition. So he knows that is that's the fuel for his body. Now, if there's something he doesn't love, for example, he calls guacamole brockamole, and I couldn't figure it out for the longest time. He's like, Mom, I'd really like some brockamole. So I'm thinking it's broccoli. So give him broccoli, no deal, okay? So then we tried like broccoli steamed with like olive oil and salt on it. No deal. I'm like, okay, great. So then we tried broccoli with butter and salt. So I'm like, I'll do some grass-fed butter on there. Okay. No deal. I'm like, okay, I'll give up on broccoli for a while. I'll find another way to get a green leafy vegetable in him. So then we did like, even kale he doesn't love, Bart, but I'll do like in the air fryer, kale chips with olive oil and salt. I'm like, great. I'm getting some green leafies in them. He thinks they're chips. He calls them green chips. I'm like, great. We'll do some green chips.
You know, what I think one of the things I love is that you don't make a big deal of it. So, you know, times change. And I think everyone's starting point, like the fact that you and Jason have been in health and fitness and you live that and you've been that way for, you know, at least a couple of decades now, helps you kind of move in that direction. My mom was not, and God bless her, I love her. And we would laugh about what I'm about to tell you. Because I think there's also other moms that might not be there yet, but you need to inch away. So my mom did make me sit at the table. And then we had a simple rule in our house that, God bless my mom too for the things she let me learn. She said, she basically had, if you didn't eat it, you wore it. Oh yeah. Yeah. So that was it. And that would be always interesting because I would sit at the table. So she'd say, no big deal. You don't have, you know, when you're hungry, you'll eat it. And there'd be like things, I'd eat hamburger every day of the week if I could. Yeah, that's not what we were having. We're having what mom cooked. But I will tell you what, the biggest thing there is that there was a lot of things when it came to health that my mom didn't learn about. Otherwise, she would have shared with me. And I think that's one of the reasons that this topic tonight is so exciting for me, because if my mom had heard what we're going to talk about, she would have implemented it. And that's what I want to encourage all the moms to do. Just wherever you're at, just kind of keep, like, just start to implement one thing. And I will tell you, as a little kid, my resistance was, I was always just trying to test my mom. It was just like trying to get one step ahead of her. All right. So you mentioned a couple other things there. So, and I know Jason and I know his disciplines. Yet, so talk to me about how important is tribe? Like, how important is that you and Jason are on the same page? You have the same terminology, same disciplines, can't have good combat. I don't know, whatever it is. But then let's extend that too, because how about when grandma comes or grandpa or whoever, the neighbor, then what?
Okay, I'm so crazy about this. Bart knows that I'm crazy about this too. I'm crazy about this, like, for my own personal health and well-being, you guys. So it's like attracts like, okay? But what happens is I'm always nervous, Bart, about sending Og to school because I'm like, oh gosh, okay, it's not the kids, but I was like, now I've got these kids around all these other parents. And one of those parents are part of my tribe and now they're influencing my child. And I was like, I did get a little crazy about this for a while, okay? So first, let's just talk about the family tribe. Like, and even like we have, we work from home, you guys, and so we have other people that work in the house with us. Oh, Art, I have this like. He's an only child, so that probably gives some of you moms some insight. Like, oh, like she's crazy because he's an only child, right? But like, I do have this like, I don't know, 7 or 10 page document. It's all these like family. It's almost like family do's and don'ts. Okay, so let me even give you guys. I have this one little sheet of paper. It's kind of funny, like when you walk into our house. So it says, what do you do when you come into our home, right? And it's on the 2 entry doors. And it's like, number 1, you go to the kitchen or you go to the guest bathroom and you wash your hands right away. And then it goes on a little bit. And then number 2, please take off your shoes. And then number 3, be positive and don't spread fear. I'm clear that these times are uncertain, but we don't want Augie to hear the fear or feel it in anyone's tone of voice. Okay, so it's like you see this at the front door. You're like, oh, it's like, it's so awesome though. It sets people that are walking into our house just in a little bit of a different mindset, okay? And then, I mean, Jason and I are very much on the same page. I mean, I'm really, grateful for that. But we have like the other people that work in the house. One of them is like, she's way like us, okay? And the other one, I mean, is the sweetest human ever. I'm like, we don't do that. She's like, okay. So it does require, us as parents, you guys, to like, I have to like stand up for the kids a little bit. Like Augie's not going to say that. He's going to be like, sure, give it, sure. I don't have to eat the green peppers and the walnuts. And she would be like, okay, his belly was full. And I'm like, he's going to eat them tonight at some point, right? So that's the family tribe. I have to really be, I'm kind of a control freak anyway, as like a business owner, but he's my child, you guys, right? So like, I want to have some element of like, who is influencing his potential behavior. I've got pretty tight control over that in the house. Now, my parents are amazing. He loves them. They love him. It's like the light of their life. But like you guys, he goes to my parents' house every Saturday night so we can be with Dr. Bart Kelly and go to yoga on Sunday mornings. And he would always get ice cream. And I'm like, oh. So finally I was like, okay, Mom, if he's going to get ice cream, that's fine. But I'm going to tell you what brand of ice cream he can have. And that's the only brand he can have. And it can't be blue. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it can't have blue dye all over it. So my mom and dad are good for the most part. Like I was like, no gluten, it's just like no dairy. It's just like whatever it is, but he does get ice cream. So there is a little bit of wiggle room with my parents. Only because I was like, I got to give him something. Otherwise she's going to be, I don't know, she's going to like be bringing him to the ice cream store that I'm really not excited about. I don't want to say it.
I love that. And really what it sounds like is that you set boundaries.
A lot.
Yeah, and I think it's fair, and I think sometimes when we think about that, like setting boundaries or rules make it rigid, but you know what they do? They predict outcomes, and they really help us see what's coming next if we prepare for it. So, that's another thing I think right nowadays, if we are preparing ourselves to get exposed to COVID or whatever it may be, then we can predict those outcomes a little bit better. So I love hearing that is a methodology. So my analogy would be, listen, I got a whole bunch of dogs and I know they're not 2-legged, but they're 4-legged, and it's very predictable. If I don't have boundaries with these dogs, then they will walk all over us. And sometimes I have to be the rough, tough dad, and put them into place. But the beauty is that they love the leadership. And I think sometimes we forget that as adults, that children, animals, pets, they love leadership.
Okay, Bart, one other thing that you say, like, so this is not exactly the topic, you guys, but it is around the mindset or the energy of the word coronavirus. Okay. So in this document I had, which I created years ago when Augie was very little, but it was like, I had all of these words that I didn't want said in the house because certain words carry a certain energy, right? You guys, just like can't, not, won't, don't was a set of words, but even things like just harsh words, like even jail, and just some really harsh words. I'm like, we just don't say these words in the house. I said, we don't talk about politics in the house, because mostly when you talk about politics in the house, it's just like, it's like, oh, did you hear? Right? So it's just, it carries an energy, and I didn't want the energy around Augie. So even news, there's no news ever on in our house. And I don't even know, Augie would know what the word news means. And I get it. I can't control this forever, you guys, but he is 5. And so I don't want him to hear or feel or experience any fear. And so when it comes to COVID or coronavirus, you guys, he didn't even know what the word was until like 2 weeks ago, because I had it pretty controlled. Like the tribe controlled it, right? We don't have the news on, and we just went on vacation, and he comes into the cabin and he says the word coronavirus. I was like, hey, where'd you hear that, Augie? but it just talks about the, you know, I want to make sure from a boundary perspective, the words, he's not watching news at other people's houses. So it does require me, Bart, when you said that from a boundary perspective, sometimes like people will be at my house, like my sister, my mom, dad will all be here. And they're like, hey, did you see on the news? And I'll have to say something, which does require some like, you know, courage on my part. I was like, hey, you guys, you can talk about that in the other bedroom if you want. That's what I'll say to them. And they're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, that's, and I love that you said that, because sometimes it does take that extra courage that we all have, and I know my super moms have it yet. They gotta figure it out, pull it out, and then use it at times, because we're trying to do our best, you know, for these little vessels to, you know, move on and give them a shot at being superhuman too. To my favorite thing you just said there, and is about energy. That's all we got. Like, that's all we really have is, what are we doing with our energy? Where are we spending our energy? You know, what kind of energy are we bringing into our lives? And I love it. And I don't think you can get weird enough right now. Like, I think right now, if you are really mindful, and again, not even the energy of bad stuff, just really being mindful of what energy serves us as individuals. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about the actual going to school. So Augie's going to school now, is that correct?
Yeah, and I have a few questions for you too. He started last Monday, so today was like what, day 7 in school. So yes.
Okay, so he's gone to school. So talk to me a little bit about the conversation you guys have at home, Jason and you, before he's going to school. I'm guessing to some degree you're thinking about, is he ready? Like, are we good? Is he strong enough? Just walk me through that conversation. And because the last several weeks, I've had this conversation with my moms every single day in my office. So what's going on, and what's that conversation looking like?
Okay, there's a conversation, right? And then there's like actions that we've taken too. So from the conversation standpoint, like he's 5 and we were aware, like his teachers were so great and they were sending us a lot of information about this is what's going to be different. Because this is his 3rd year there, right? It's like a 3, 4, 5-year-old class. So he's familiar with the teachers, he's familiar with the room, but the teachers are going to look different and the room is going to look different, right? So we'd have a conversation with him. I kept saying, hey, Miss Lauren's going to look like an astronaut this year. Okay. Because Miss Lauren's wearing this, like, you know, I think she's wearing a mask and then she's also wearing a face shield. Okay. And we had like a meet and greet. So we talked about what the teachers are going to look like. We talked about what the routine is going to be a little bit different at school. So Miss Lauren's a friend of ours, right? So she saw this and she's like, oh, I'm implementing that. So they have like, they walk in, they take their shoes off. The first thing they do is they go to wash their hands. And I think they have like a washing hand routine. And so that we did this washing hand routine at the house for the last however months was helpful because this just transitioned to school. But we talked about like that eating at lunch, for example, Bart, like normally they have these little picnic tables and I don't know, maybe 6 people would sit at a picnic table. Well, now they have all these extra picnic tables, right? And only 2 people can sit at a picnic table for somewhat of social distancing. So we prepared him for that. So we just had a lot of conversation around him about this year, things are going to be different. So let's just talk about what is going to be a little bit different. Now, we didn't talk about why necessarily, but we wanted to prepare him so he wasn't shocked when he went in about what was going to be. Food, his snacks are different. Like a lot of the way that they share things is going to be different. But I just was like, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a new experience. It's going to be different. Your teachers are going to be awesome. And every day he comes home, I'm like, tell me what was different today. What happened? What was the best part? What was different?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, you are a lot cooler than I am, because that would when you're going through all that, Amber, I'm sitting over here. I don't think I'm hoping people can't see my face, because I'm like, what? You kidding me? Like, I don't know. So yeah, so wow, that is honestly, it's a lot for me to like listen to and take in. So I got to imagine for the moms listening, for some, this has got to be massively overwhelming when all they want their kids to do is go to school, get a great education, experience, learn, and live at the same time. Wow, 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 wow. All right. So let's talk to me a little bit about some of the strategies over the years. And I know these because you've been getting Augie adjusted for a little while. So let's talk a little bit of some of the things that you do that might seem a little outside of the box for Augie's health as a super mom, and with the intention of like, yeah, I'm just gonna do whatever I can to, to level him up the best that I can. So talk to me about some of the things. Maybe you do some chiropractic and maybe does he take supplements? How do you get that going on? All that good stuff.
Yeah, he's had like a meal replacement shake every day. I mean, he probably had at one point like 3 or 4, child size per day, but they're just packed with nutrition. He loves them. He always has 2 now, one for breakfast with some other stuff, and then one, kind of like as a late night snack. He always takes 3 vitamins in the morning, 3 vitamins in the evening. He grew up taking vitamins though. So he is like, whether we put liquid in his bottles when he was younger or chewable vitamins. So again, he just knows that they're his nutrition. They give him energy. They keep him healthy. So he does get adjusted once a month. He'll even say, he was on the kitchen island the other day. He's like, Mom, I'm feeling some popcorn, which means he thinks he needs to go see Dr. Bart to get the popcorn out of his spine. So he does do that. And then just, I think overall, so I would say meal replacement shakes, he's definitely used to vitamins. He sees us take vitamins and supplements. And I mean, I could go really deep into this conversation too, Bart, but like there are times, you guys, where like the only doctor Augie knows is Dr. Bart Precourt. So like if there is some, like he had this cough, I don't know if you remember this, Bart, he had this cough for like quite some time. And I was like, oh, gosh, I don't know what this is. And then, you know, Dr. Bart's like, let's get him on. I think it was chewable Conjaplex and then Pneumotrophin, right? And we had like, right, do you remember that part? And we had, and it was, I mean, it took like he'd had this cough though for like 9 months. And I was like, I don't know what it is. And I was like, I went to Dr. Bart and it took like 3 to 6 weeks. But so he's used to taking vitamins and supplements for when he's even not feeling well. So.
Yeah. So I love all of that. And it's always, and whatever strategy it takes, that's what I love about what, you know, the super moms do. They just kind of weave in and out of it. And the beauty is that the kids love all that stuff, believe it or not. I always find that, especially like things like adjustments and, you know, and it's not because it has neck pain or back pain or anything like that. So Karen, if we do have questions and you want to bring any up, we'll take them now as well. So that all those strategies right there, Amber, I think that for our listeners tonight, you know, on Facebook and here on Zoom to kind of think like, what could you start to do to just start to do little things to introduce them now? Because that's all it takes, and make almost like a game at it. Like I know when Augie comes and see me, it's always been like a fun, energetic thing. And I think that's part of the reason why, you know, he'll be like raising his hand maybe to go to the doctor versus trying to avoid the doctor. Yeah. And
I would say too, like, I always tell her, like, people are like, so sometimes I look at you and Kelly and I was like, oh my gosh, Bart and Kelly eat perfect. You know what I mean? So, but you guys, you get it. It's like, no, you just start, like, even when I coach people, I'm like, no, I don't want you to eat like me. I want you to eat 1% better than you ate yesterday. You're not measuring against me. Does that make sense? It's like, what is the one thing that you can do that you feel good about that you and your children can get bought into? I always talk about like school. Okay, maybe that's your kindergarten. Okay, then you get used to that. That becomes your routine. You're like, okay, what's the next thing that I can do? Like, this has been 20 years for me, 20 plus years for you, Bart. Like, it's like, if you guys hear, I mean, some of you guys might be like 10 times deeper than I am into this, right? But if you hear some of these things, you're like, oh my gosh, it's so much. No. It's 20 years of, you know, compound effect. Just pick your one thing and like, love it.
Yeah, I love that, because people do compare, right? And it really is only a comparison with yourself. What can you do with yourself to keep getting better? Okay, let's take a couple of questions. We've got a few here. Okay, the first one is, are children's immune systems stronger against COVID than adults?
All right, I think I'll tackle this one. Yeah. So I think this is going to actually be a wake-up call for people when I talk about this. We've heard people talk about like the kids have a better defense. So I'm going to talk about it in a way that you'll understand why our kids are probably better off than adults. So this might take a quick second, but if you get this part, and I'm glad whoever's asking this question, it's awesome, because this is the part I want the moms and the dads that are trying to make decisions to send their kids off to school or not. I have a lot of parents right now that have chosen not to send their kids to school, and I respect that. But I hope and pray that it's not because of the fear or the lack of knowledge. So this is one of the questions I was hoping we'd hear tonight. So it goes like this. So our kids, do they have a different immune system? The answer is no. Yet they're in a different place. I will say this, that so children have a better ability to adapt to a novel virus than an adult does. And I'm going to backtrack those words for just a moment here. So one of the big challenges, if you guys all remember when the COVID virus came out, was that it was novel, meaning new. There was a new virus strand that we haven't really been exposed to. But here's what we want to understand. So listen, humans are always exposed to the rodeo. I mean, it's not our first rodeo to be exposed to something, but children specifically, it works like this. So we have this gland that's right inside of our chest here. It's called the thymus gland. And the way this works, if I was giving the simple analogy, let's just say that you have an antigen, and that's the bad guy. It could be virus, bacteria, parasite, something like that. It's floating around out there. That virus enters the body. the beauty is, so even as a child, you have the white blood cells, they respond to that answer and say, hey, Mr. Bad Guy, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. And it's able to identify it. And our body's so amazing that literally, if we look at like our blood work, we'll know what kind of bad guy it is. So we'll know if it's a parasite, it'll show up as something called the eosinophils. If it's a bacteria, it'll be a neutrophil. If it's a virus, it'll be a lymphocyte. So we can very specifically identify the type of bad guy. So when this happens, those white blood cells then carry a little piece of that antigen down into a gland that we call your spleen. And the spleen is like, why do we even have this thing? Oftentimes we take it out. But nonetheless, your spleen then goes to work. It's where it develops the ammunition. So your spleen literally develops an antibody for that antigen. So good guy versus bad guy. That's like the body's natural antibiotic, which is awesome. So as long as we get exposure, so this is kind of key here. If we get exposed to something, we can actually develop an antibody. And right now we'll hear the terms like IgGs and IgMs. The IgGs are made in the spleen. But before that, here's the really fun part. Here's the important part. We have this gland right here in your chest, this thymus gland. That is where your white blood cells are made. Very specifically, you have something called your T cells. These T cells, once you bring something into your body goes, oh, we need a bunch of warriors, a bunch of soldiers to go fight. So it makes them. And when it makes them, then it talks to the spleen. We make very specific ammunition to kill off those things. Those T cells, their job is to kill infected cells. Here's why children are stronger and have a better shot against a novel virus than an adult. So hear me closely. This thymus gland actually starts to shrink and fade away at puberty. So when this happens, okay, you have to have exposure from we'll just say from 0 to 13, 0 to 15, 0 to 17. Those are critical times for us to get exposed to viruses, bacteria, parasites. If we don't get exposed to it, we don't develop the immunity for it. So the 65-year-old male, me, versus the 13-year-old Bart, I have a thymus gland that's ready and active. The 65-year-old Bart, thymus gland is not that active. So it's not that we don't. You have to have real specific strategies. So I don't know if that answered the question, but are kids ready and available? On one level, I'm going to say they have a very good response to a novel virus. And I know I'm chatting along here, but I'm going to add one more thing to this. So children are born what I call rich, which means that they have a huge deposit in their enzyme bank. Enzymes are what fight for us. That means all the things that come into our body, your body uses enzymes either to break them down or get them out. That is what an enzyme does. So let's imagine you're born with 1 million enzymes in your liver and in your intestines. That's really where most of your enzymes are. And every time you go to McDonald's, you got to spend like 10. You got to spend 10 enzymes, like $10, right? And then you drink a diet soda, you got to spend another $10 because it wasn't from nature. So every time you get exposed to something, you're either depositing into your enzyme bank or you're spending. Now the challenge is when we get older, we've spent a lot of those enzymes, toxins, parasites, pesticides, all of these things, all these chemicals go, we're spending. Children have a huge bank. And especially someone like Augie Amber, he's still depositing, he's investing in his enzyme bank. And that is what's so powerful. And the beauty about investing in your health, the moment you start, you're already gaining interest. And that's an important thing for all of us to understand. So as we start for a little kid, when they get exposed to the virus, so this is the second part of the kids I want you to take away here. When a kid gets exposed to a virus, it has so many enzymes, it immediately neutralizes the virus. And it makes it so that that virus cannot spread. And that is such an important part right now. So to say that they can't get the virus, no, but it's not about not getting it. It's not about not getting, dirty here. It's about not getting to a point where it breaks down the body. So in a nutshell, do I think the kids they're in pretty good shape? Yes. Do I think we have to invest in their little enzyme banks and their immune systems? Heck yeah, we do.
So Bart, can I ask something then about masks, right? To mask or not to mask? Because as I'm talking to some of my friends,
yep.
Like I was just talking earlier today, like we've got some in Wisconsin and then we've got Oklahoma. I'm just talking to them about their kids going to school. And I was like, well, what are some of your concerns? So when you just talked about the immune system, one of our friends, Jess, was like, okay, so my 12-year-old rarely gets sick. With him being masked all the time, will that jeopardize his good immune system now that he's not getting exposed?
Well, Amber, the answer to that is if his thymus gland, his spleen do not get exposed to pathogens, to antigens that are flying around there, the answer is yes. It is going to downregulate. We've got a window here that are going to set them up for a course of their lifetime. So earlier I said, when people say, I convert about the COVID virus, I'm more concerned about right now, especially now we know that there's, a lower mortality rate, especially when it comes to children. My biggest concern of what are we doing? Are we looking at what we're setting them up for? If they mask and they distance, how are we, and we wash hands. And listen, I get it. But I'm also a clinician. I'm also someone who works with anatomy and physiology every day. I work with immune systems every day. And I know how the fundamental innate immune system is, how it works, how it's built. And it's built by exposure. So, it has to be a confident decision to be made. Yet ultimately, there's no long play in a mask. There's no long play in social distancing.
So good. I totally get that. So I'm like, you mask, you wash hands, you social distance. And then the question is, will they have a harder time possibly fighting off illnesses in the future? Well, I get it. That's so good.
Yeah. So hopefully that answered our question. What else you got there?
Yeah. Okay. This one's from Bobby and JJ from Texas. The question is, they have 2 teenage boys that are going back to school in a hybrid situation, 2 days at school, 3 days virtual. They both take 50 milligrams of zinc every day. Would that also help teenage boys? 2-part question. So first, zinc, does that help teenage boys? Also, what are your thoughts on herd immunity?
Yeah. So, well, I'll tell you what, and I'm going to get Amber's input on this too as a mom. So I'll tell you, absolutely zinc. So I still think they should combine the 3 of them, the C, D, and zinc, real bioavailable type sources. And we've talked about them here on the show before. And what do I think about herd immunity? I think that's how it works at the end of the day. Listen, that is how humans have out-survived everything else on the face of this earth. Because we have a brilliant innate immune system. So I tell you that thymus gland shrinks over time, but we can wake it back up. That's the beauty of it. If we have the right strategies in place. So I think herd immunity is the only possibility of us actually getting past this. How long, other than that, Karen, and Bobby, I appreciate the questions. The only other way is that we keep running, and and eventually one of us is going to get tired, fall down, and then you get caught. Amber, what are your thoughts on those 2 things? Because it falls into that category of decision making for a parent.
Yep. When she asked the question, I was like looking at you, but I was like, yes and yes. So zinc, absolutely. I would say the same thing along with the others. And herd immunity. So Bart, when this was I was watching the news a little bit more when this started happening, and I was like watching Europe, right? And I was watching us, and I watched Sweden, and I get it. That's a whole different situation, you guys. That's a country, and that is different than the size of our country. But I agree. I think that by not being aware of herd immunity, we're just avoiding and running from the possibility of actually coming to some sort of conclusion. I just wonder about how long we're going to lengthen this process because of avoiding herd immunity. So I agree.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we got another question. You talk about supplements that you use. What supplements, maybe for both of you, are you guys recommending for kids?
Amber, you want to take this first?
Yep, I do. So Augie takes, he's always taken a fish oil, you guys. And so when they're younger, when they don't know any better, they'll just take it and chew a fish oil. And he'll still do it today. He's 5, he doesn't love it. But he used to just take, fish oil or cod liver oil, capsules right out of my tablet box and chew it. And then he would leave the the outside casing, right? He just sucked the oil out. So today I can't do that. Oh my gosh, they love it, you guys. If it's a good high quality omega-3 or fatty acid or some sort of cod liver oil, yeah, he'd just suck it right out. They didn't know he did. It was so funny, Karen. People would be like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I know, don't tell him it's gross, right? Just let him keep going with it. But
yeah, awesome.
Yeah, today I don't get to do that as much. So I use a liquid omega-3 fatty acid oil that I kind of disguise in other things. Then he does take vitamin C twice a day. He takes like depending on the season or what's going on, but he does take standard processed products too that depending on what's going on with him, right, that Bart recommends.
Yeah, so that's I love hearing those stories about the cod liver oil because when I have the adults do it, so that's it's how I take mine. I bite them and I just throw out the capsules. When I ask my adult patients to do it, be like, you bite it, and they're like, no way. The kids will be like, yeah, give me this. I have some other moms that are probably listening tonight, and their kids like look for them, which I think it's absolutely awesome. It's so healthy for them. So, there are a couple, especially for children, Karen, that I think right now, if I had to give, and knowing that children aren't going to do the same dosing that adult is, there are two that I use specifically. We can link to it tonight. There's one that I call Catalin, and this is real important. It's our whole food multivitamin one. Yet, what's interesting about it, Catalin really means catalyst, and it's a catalyst for enzymes. And that's really why that one's so valuable. It's pretty much everything under the sun. They'll get their C and their D and all that good stuff. And it comes in a chewable source. So that's one of my favorite ones for the kiddos to take because I know that if they're taking Catalin, they are getting all the nutrition. But there's some funky stuff in there. Like I think one of the, like the third ingredient, there's like bovine liver and bovine spleen. Those are the things in there that make it just so brilliant for that product to really help the body function at a higher level. And then the others, my absolute favorite when it comes to immune response, there's one called Conchaplex. The name doesn't mean anything, but it's probably one of the most brilliant formulas that I've seen since I've been practicing. And in there is vitamin C, there's calcium lactate, and there's thymus, desiccated thymus gland. So Amber, I don't know if I ever told you that, but I know, Augie will use that at times. And I don't always tell my peeps that it's in there, but that stimulates the thymus gland to produce white blood cells when we are under duress. So those two are usually the ones that I'll say, listen, if you can get your kids to take these and official, just like Amber said, that because the little brain is in it so much here. So those three are probably my first ones that I would give to them. And you can always go farther if you need, but they're covered. If they just got those, they're covered well.
And these are chewable ones, aren't they? Are they?
Yeah, they're chewable, because I understand a lot of little kids, not swallowing pills. I got a lot of adults that aren't swallowing pills. But the beauty about whole food stuff, if you don't mind the taste, you can chew most of it. You can chew 95% of them. So, these are chewable, and they have, I've chewed some of them. They're yummy. They're yummy. They're good. They remind you of a Flintstone, but it's not a Flintstone. Yeah.
Some of them for Augie, like if he doesn't love the taste, I'll disguise it. Like his multivitamin and his vitamin C are great. His omega oil, though, you guys, I disguise in like it's called mandarin aloe. So it's like, it probably tastes a little bit like a juice, but it's just flavored aloe that doesn't have any sugar in it. And Conchaplex, you guys, I think Bart, I don't remember how many he was taking, but it was a decent amount, you guys. And he was like 2 or 3 when he first started taking it. So I would just crush it up and put it like in his meal replacement shake, and he wouldn't even know. I'd crush it up. I'd take like a little mortar pestle, crush it up, make it a little powder. And then I put it in his meal replacement shake and shake it up. So it was great.
Yeah, and Amber, and I'm guessing for you guys, he's watched you guys take your supplements, and I know there's one thing kids love to do is, the little boys love to emulate dad, and little girls love to emulate mom. So if they see it happening, so that's where that tribe and literally walking the talk plays a role here. Karen, we got any other questions at this point?
Just last question. I always get, people are listening and they want to bring their kids to come and see you. If they're not located in Florida, how do they work with you, or can they still work with you?
Absolutely. So if, so we can do virtual anything, and even with their children. So, oftentimes people say, oh my God, the kid gets adjusted. Yeah. And, yes, I adjust them a little bit different than I adjust, an adult body. But I will tell you this, what's really interesting is that I would say through my career, and I've adjusted literally thousands and thousands of kids. My youngest was 6 hours old. Real proud of that.
6 hours.
Yeah. What's really fascinating is children love to get adjusted. Like they intuitively, innately just kind of know like feels good for them. And as long as mom and dad aren't like freaked out about it, or if they are, I usually even ask them to leave the room or something, but the kids usually love to get adjusted. So those are good little strategies to kind of like help them out. So yeah, and we can do Zoom as well. So like I can't adjust obviously in Zoom, but if people want to do a consult with me, they certainly can there.
I would even say, Bart, a lot of my friends, you guys, what they'll do, they're like from around the nation. They'll come in here, go to vacation, or we'll have a team retreat or something like that. We'll go to Bart and Kelly's, and they're like, Amber, how do I work with Bart? And Bart, you've worked with plenty of my friends across the nation and their kids via Zoom.
Yeah, it's that's one of the gifts that I think this whole COVID thing has happened. We were fortunately already in a virtual world, and then it took, COVID just kind of squashed this timeline of how we all got ourselves advanced with things like this. So I do believe in a weird way that there's going to be a lot of good things that come out of these moments. I see the level of health awareness rising on a level that we couldn't get to before. Like, we couldn't create this consciousness about health at the pace we were going. We just sped the whole thing up by 10 years, learning about different ways to level up our immune systems, et cetera. So, so there's some weird good things that are taking place even amongst all this other stuff that's going on.
Yeah, for sure. That's all our questions for the moment.
So Amber, I have another kind of conversation piece for you. So we talked a little bit about the mindset and thinking the bigger picture here. We talked about, you brought in some of the most, like, my favorite topics of talking about getting proper sleep for Augie. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that just for a moment. And I know this might even be a side step, but I know for a lot of my moms, sleeping habits for their children can be a nightmare. Can you speak to that a little bit? And then what happens when it's not great? Because, just like you and I, when we're not well rested, we're not at our best. You know what I mean? Like, emotionally and physically. So give us some tips for that.
Yes, and your immune system, Bart, right? So, I mean, I'm learning this personally, guys, because Bart knows I'm a little bit of a workaholic, and I'm, like, restructuring the way that I work right now too, because I love to work, and I was like, I'm the person that would stay up till 2 a.m. Now, I haven't done that with Augie. Okay, so let's just talk about bedtime routines, which you guys have heard this, forever, right? So if you're a parent, you're like, okay, I've heard the bedtime routine. So, I mean, I'll tell you, Augie, not that he fights me on it every night, but I'm telling you, he will push buttons every single night. But the deal is, does that make sense? We take a bath, we read a book, we have our shake, we have our vitamins, we say our prayers, we talk about 3 things that we're grateful for, and we always finish with, like, I just want to make sure you guys emotionally, that I say, is there anything that happened today that didn't make you feel good or that you don't feel good about that you want to share with mom? I finish with that every single night. So it is a routine. It's like 6 things, and we always do it in the same order. And for the most part, we always start at 8 o'clock with, ideally, he's to bed by 8:30. It works like 80% of the time, right? So I do think it's super important, you guys, from like just an immune system, a routine building standpoint. And as parents, you guys all get this, right? When your kid doesn't get enough sleep, and then they're kind of a bit cranky, and then they don't have a great day in school, and then they don't feel good about themselves. I'm always so concerned, Bart, about like his emotional well-being and him feeling confident. Like, life gets tougher after 5, right? And you get beat down and you get knocked down. And so I just want to ensure that I can do what I can do right now at 5 years old to even support like his emotional status and his ability to have some self-confidence, which I think sleep, Bart, it just knocks down a little bit of everything else the next day, right? You want some sugar, you get it. It's just kind of like a little bit of a roller coaster. So to the best of our ability, we've got this like 8 o'clock routine.
Yeah, wow. That you just rolled off some things there, and I said prayer, gratitude, things to talk about during the day. You rock, girl. Like, it's literally, honestly, that's huge. I love hearing that. So listen, in the event, let's say you don't have a routine other than you start the fighting match every night, because I was that child. Like, I get it. I think I'm asking for like all the torture I put my mom through all the years. I'm like, maybe there's a way I can she'll forgive me. But for the moms out there that maybe heard some of this stuff and think, man, that's left field, or that's so weird. They start with one at a time, I bet. Like, you just start with one, like prayer. So I remember we did that a lot when we were children. But the idea that you talk about the gratitude, Amber, I talk about that every day. Like, I go Facebook Live and talk about my morning ritual. But man, I'll think about, man, if I went to bed, with my gratitude props there. So I love that.
I make him pick 3. I mean, he's 5, you guys, but it's like, for the longest time, he would look right. He'd probably be like 3 years old. He'd look around the room and he'd go, I'm grateful for my lights, the windows, and that picture. I'm like, awesome, pal. Great. I was like, he's not going to bed until he picks 3. Okay. And now he's like 5. And the big joke is like, if he says my lights and the window, I go, okay, 3-year-olds say that. You're a 5-year-old. So I want you to really think about your day and what was awesome about your day. So now I'm starting to get him to like think.
Love it, love it. And
Amazing.
yeah, that is literally so awesome. And I think one of the other things there that it is so important, you hit it right on the head, that your immune system, you heal when you sleep. And I'm just as guilty. I think all of us as adults, we're pushing the envelope in every direction, yet we heal when we sleep. That thymus gland, it builds those little T cells when you're sleeping. Your melatonin release when you're sleeping. So all of these things become such an important. So we can look at all of these at, so many areas that we can create and develop strategies that literally can help, not only ourselves, but our little ones just continuously level up. And the beauty of all of that, and I think what I love all about this, Amber, is that focus was never on the bad guy. It was always about developing it from the inside out. And I think that it wows me for a moment here. And I'm hoping that everyone kind of takes a little of that away, that we don't have to run from the bad guy to be awesome. Like we get awesome by being awesome. Like that's the idea.
Yep.
All right. Well, Karen, any other questions floating out there? If anyone has any other questions, they're going to send them now. And then I think we have a super question for you, Amber. Is there anything else you want to share with us any other tips or any other thoughts you might have on when, parents are facing decisions right now of sending their kid back to school? Should I put a mask on them? And then Karen will have another question for you, but what would you say from one mom to another about that topic right there? Because it's a big one right now.
Oh, there's two things. I always say, as a parent, everybody does the best that they can do with the information that they have. Okay, so if you make a decision today and 3 months from now, you're like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? That was a horrible decision. You just got to give yourself a break. Every parent does the best that they can do with the decision or the information they have at that moment. So as parents, don't you look back sometimes and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't believe I did that. Even like you say something to your children, you're like, oh my gosh, I should have never said that. I'm like, I got it. But everybody does the best they can do with the information that they have at that moment. My second thing on that is, where are you getting your information? Okay. So one of the things that I learned years ago, like my friends know this, I even have it on my Instagram account, 3%er. I would say I'm a 3%er, right? All I knew was walk away from the 97%. Okay. So Jim Rohn, he's passed, his business philosopher. You guys probably all know Jim Rohn, but Jim Rohn has this audio. He's like, you must walk away from the 97%. Okay. So you just have to question, where are you receiving your information? Are you receiving your information from the 97%? Or you're receiving your information from Dr. Bart, who's a 3%er, and now let's not have a herd mentality, Bart, where we're receiving our information. So you really can get the best educated that you can, right? From maybe 3% of the information to make the best decision for you and your family to go back to school.
Wow, I think that is huge input right there, hon. That where are you getting your data? Especially now, I think that's probably with all the media sources and everything out there right now. I think that is some solid input right there. All right, Karen, you got one big final question for Miss Amber here tonight?
Indeed, Amber. We always like to make health simple for people, so we end with our question, which is, what is one action item that people can take today to move them towards their goal of becoming superhuman? So today, maybe it's one action item that people can take to move their kids towards, to creating little superhumans.
Okay, I'm just gonna go energetic for a minute, and I'm gonna say, it has to start with us as parents, you guys. So I'm gonna say self-awareness and think. I oftentimes think we run on autopilot, or from an information, either autopilot or we just do what everybody else is doing. I don't know that that's the answer. It might be, right? But I don't know that's the answer. So I'm going to say one thing. Each year I pick a word of the year. Like 2 or 3 years ago, it was self-aware. I just had to become more self-aware of the decisions I was making. And I just really wanted to think about the decisions I was making. Was I making them just because you guys, we're such a busy society and it's so crazy right now with the season. It's like, are we just running on autopilot and making, we don't know the decisions we're making? Or we really think, we have enough self-awareness around the food, enough self-awareness around the vitamins, enough self-awareness around the sleep, the masks, the education, just stop for a minute and think and go, okay, I'm having an awareness moment. What decision am I going to make? It doesn't require necessarily oh, go wash your hands or anything. Just stop and have a little bit of moment, like, let me think for a moment before I make the decision. That'd be my one, you know, energetic takeaway.
And I think that's a tip for everyone. Doesn't matter if you're a parent or you're not a parent, right? I love that. I think we can all probably do more of that. So I think that's a great tip for everyone.
That's absolutely awesome. That's solid right there, girl. Just that solid there. So Amber, thank you for being here tonight. You know, I love you. You're absolutely awesome. Keep being you. Don't change an absolute thing. Continue to get a little bit more weird every year. That's what I love the most about you. And everyone, you know, watching, keep doing your thing. You know, keep spreading out, keep sharing the love, keep doing your thing. And we'll see you guys next week. Y'all be awesome.
See you guys.